All righty, so welcome to week 10. And we have an exciting night ahead of us. Before we jump right in, I know we have a couple of housekeeping. I'm going to hand it off to Katie first.
Hey everybody, good to see everyone. I wanted to just quickly point out that if you are one of those people, Lisa, hint, hint, that likes to see everything checked off in a beautiful way on the website, but you've submitted some of your assignments through like email or other ways, just go ahead and you can even upload like just a piece of Word document that says like submitted through email or something like that. And I will go ahead and give you an official grade and official comments, and you can have a beautiful list.
Not necessary, but thank you. I just didn't know if it was important on your side. I'm like, I'm trying to click it over here and it didn't work. So
no,
thanks, Katie.
If it's not in there, then it's like if you send it through email, then it doesn't really let me do it on my end. But I love my checklist and I love having everything checked off. So if you're one of those people like me, go ahead and just upload a blank piece of paper and let me know. So that's, I think, all that I have. Wanda. Oh, wait, Wanda's muted, but I actually did, when she started talking to no one, I had something else. I did not see any value proposition canvases come through. So
I totally sent mine.
You totally sent yours. I didn't see it. So if you sent it, if you could resend it, maybe something was wrong with my email. No, Chris, I didn't see yours either. So let me just check the system again. I checked it a little earlier today, but yeah. So anyway, if you didn't send it, then please make sure to send it. And I'm going to check the system right now and hand it over to Wanda in the meantime.
All righty. Well, so besides the value proposition, how did we do? That's still outstanding for a few of us. How did we do with our wireframes? Did we feel like we got a little more in the weeds with conceptualizing our ideation, our innovation?
I really like the proto.io tool.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, really helpful.
Okay. I got to look at some of you all's and I'll be providing some feedback, but I just wanted to make sure. So I'll provide some feedback. I'll share them with Mel. She'll get you guys, when you start meeting with her, she'll kind of give you some direction on that. And that's kind of what we're going to use as your transition to the next step. Once we see those and we've given you some feedback and we've seen the things that we need to see, then you'll be handed off. And so we started that with for some of you, and then the rest of you is kind of as we get those wireframes, then we know you're ready for development work. So the faster we hear from you, the quicker we get moving on your stuff. And we're going to have more stuff coming up. We're going to talk today after Mr. McKay speaks about our pitches. So it's our pitch decks. We're going to start rolling those out. So please don't fall behind, because we have a lot of stuff that is coming down the pipeline. So it'll be your, like, if you haven't finished your value proposition, please get that done. If you haven't finished your wireframe, please get that done, because next we're moving into our pitch decks, preparing for our pitch competitions, and you're going to have stuff due to Nell to actually finish your MVPs. And so it's going to be like, hey, I need this from you. And we're going to need you guys to kind of move quickly on those things so we can kind of, because once you kind of get skipped in order, then you go to the bottom of the list, and so be it, you know, in terms of kind of how our time gets divvied up. So just want to kind of give you guys heads up of how that's going to go. But unless anyone has any more questions on any of that. All right, so we have an amazing speaker today. Mr. Peter McKay is the entrepreneurship librarian at University of Florida. I met him actually when I was working one of my earlier business endeavors, and I forgot how I stumbled upon him, had a great conversation on market research for my company project, or one of my company launches. And ever since then, since I've started Edit, I send all my entrepreneurs to him and they come back mind blown. And so I want you guys to make sure, we talked about this last week, make sure you book a session with him. appointment with him so you can actually go do a deeper dive into your innovation in your business. But just to kind of give you a taste of what market research even is and what that process is, he is here tonight. And so I'm going to hand it off to you, Mr. McKay.
All right, thank you. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. You know, I feel like I'm actually seeing people when I'm doing Zoom. It's a lot better than just the telephone. Not quite as good as in person, but anyway. Actually, I want to start out with a question. What is a wireframe? Wanda?
Oh, that's for me. I thought it was for one of the entrepreneurs.
No.
A wireframe is like an interactive version of their technical innovation. So it's almost kind of like, if you think kind of like Wizard of Oz, where you can touch a button and the next page will show the next thing you touch. But so it looks like a functional site, but it has, so it's some level of engagement to it.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's a new one for me. So I'm trying to figure out how to start this up. We're gonna be kind of handicapped. I don't know if it's politically correct to say that anymore, but when I say that, what I mean is we have very limited, as let's say a non-UF student. My understanding is you don't have off-campus access to our resources, our database, our subscriptions. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So what I'm going to try to do is get you acquainted with a few resources that can help you get started, and maybe a few ideas and search strategies that may be fruitful. As Wanda said, you know, I welcome you to contact me anytime. I actually have an appointment calendar on the website that I'll show you. And you can just click a day and pick a time and fill out the form. It sends it to me, reserves it on my calendar. So you're welcome. I've actually worked with, let's see, one person so far. And that is Sylvia Powell. So we had a session. I felt like it was pretty good. I hope she did. At any rate, so what I'm trying to explain here is, you know, we have a lot of expensive databases, many of which can be used for market research. They don't always have the answer, but you know, I'm trying to get in the mindset, okay, if I didn't have this, what resources and methods would I try to use to start learning about the market, getting some definition, matching my product idea with its potential, all those sorts of things. So I will go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to start out with, first of all, let me show you how you can get to this page. All you need to do is type in UF Business Library, and it's the first thing that comes up. So this is it here. I was talking about an appointment.
Peter, if you're sharing your page, we can't see it.
You know what? I think it would probably help if I actually shared it. Hopefully, now can you see this page now?
Yeah, we can see
Yes.
your appointment page.
Okay, great. So if you want to make an appointment, the easiest way is to just schedule the button. Now, I'm going to actually be out most of the rest of the week. But for example, if you wanted to do it tomorrow or Wednesday, you can see when you click a day, it shows the availability. And if I wanted one of these, I would just click it, continue, fill out the form, and I get a message. You know, so you put your name down, your email down, and what your interest is, and then the Zoom link is in the confirmation email. So generally, it's pretty easy, and those are times that I actually have set aside. So, so there's not a problem going back and forth, trying to figure out a time. Now, what we're going to look at today, there are a number of tutorials here, and we're going to look at this market research tutorial. So what this does is it outlines some simple steps to kind of give you an idea of, how to put it together, what steps to take when you're building a market, when you're researching a market. Now, I work with a lot of students in entrepreneurship programs. Do you know about the Gator Big Idea business plan competition? You ever heard of that? Well, they have an annual competition that's conducted in the spring semester. And the first prize is $25,000. What they do is they put together a business plan, and then they compete with other teams. And the top 3 prizes are $25,000, $10,000, and $5,000. Beyond now, this is money to help them actually either start or grow their business. And aside from the money, you get to meet a lot of people. Now, the idea here in writing these business plans primarily to get investors interested. Okay, so it's pitching to investors. So that's one thing to think about. Are you doing the research for yourself? Are you doing the research in preparation of, hoping to demonstrate to potential investors that this is a good investment for them? And I'm sure there are other reasons, but those. So you need to think about that to begin with.
I'd say both. Mhm.
That's good. It can actually, you go through these steps, it can help you kind of clarify your ideas and figure out how they relate to one another. It's like the business model canvas where it puts together a lot of the elements in a kind of simple framework. Okay, so let me see, I do have some notes. Just quickly, I'm gonna go, so here's the plan, by the way. I'm not gonna do all the talking. So what we're gonna do is, there's some breakout rooms, I think 2 breakout rooms. You're gonna be assigned to one of them and work with your teammates. And we're gonna try to guide you to looking at a few of these sources we're talking about and seeing what you can come up with. I can tell you from my experience, these can be really tough topics to research. But there are some things that you can do where you can get some relevant information. So that's basically the approach I'm going to try to take here. We'll see how it turns out. So you'll work together about 20 minutes, then we'll have you come back. Each group will tell us about their experience, what they found, what they didn't find, that if they, did they find some of the sources useful? And then we can talk about that and kind of wrap it up. That's what I have in mind. But let's see how it goes. It's a little different because I would have a little more structured database, let's say, if I was working with some of the students who have access to it. But we're guerrilla researchers, so we got to make do and the best we can. Anyway, even though you're not going to have access to the databases up here, this is a pretty good outline of things you should be doing. When I say profile the market, that's basically, essentially, and most importantly, who do you envision as your customers? Are they consumers? Are they, are you planning to sell to businesses, organizations, universities, governments? So you need to clearly define who your primary customer is going to be. That's a key. That's a key dimension. And sometimes it's, you know, you have an idea and you think it'll be good, but who are you actually going to be selling this to? So I'm going to use the example of ice cream because I like ice cream. So in my imaginary world, I'm putting together grandma's recipe, which is better than any commercially available ice cream. So what I want to do then is learn a little about the ice cream industry, the market, how it's distributed, who buys it. Now, the second step is researching the consumers, which really kind of flows out of that first step. And what it means is, okay, if I think I can find, well, who buys ice cream? Well, obviously it's the one, you know, sold in the grocery stores. It's whoever's doing shopping, probably because they have kids in the house. Maybe it's just for them, for their family. But you can actually get a profile of, let's say, the age range, income level, location, ethnicity, to find out who your buyers are. Now, in this particular case, I'm thinking about a premium ice cream. So I'm not going to, my product, I'm not thinking about a mass market, but a, you know, kind of a specialty market. And in some ways, you might even think of it like a model would have been when Ben and Jerry started. Now, they were just a couple of guys, I think in Vermont, started making this ice cream. They sold it locally. Word of mouth got out, and eventually they became a national phenomenon. Anyway, so there's some data sources. Now, there are some sources that you have access to, and I'm going to show you that. Following this, you know, a rich source of information are news, articles, reports. Even though you don't have access to these particular databases, Google News can be a great source of information about one of the reasons you want to look at that is, okay, what are the current trends? What's making news? If you're looking at a, you know, like this premium ice cream, okay, I have to decide, is my target through grocery stores, maybe ice cream shops? At any rate, you can search the news and get some leads that way. And then researching the competition. Well, who else is selling not just ice cream, but in the segment that you're targeting? So we will be using Google, but we'll use some other resources as well. So I want to actually I want to show you something you may not be aware of. As a Florida citizen, you have access to what's called the Florida Electronic Library. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Sorry. I can't really type and talk at the same time. Okay, so keep in mind what I'm doing. I'm just showing you a few resources, and then we're going to have you break into teams. But I want you to know about this because when I say you don't have access to the university's databases, you do have access to some electronic databases through the Florida Electronic Library. And it used to be they would ask you to input your library card number, your barcode, but now it's actually looking to see where you come from. If you're in Florida, it's just you don't even have to log in. Now, what I'm going to look for here is, let's see, all resources and by subject, hopefully. business. And what you'll see here is a series of databases that have business information. Without going into it too much, I was talking about finding the demographics for your, assuming you're it's a consumer product. Well, this is actually a pretty sophisticated database to research consumers, and all the standard demographic variables, but others as well. I haven't used this. There's no database that I use more often, but our journalism and communications librarian, they have a public relations and advertising programs, and these kids, they have to do some real research. Sometimes they have real clients, so this is very hands-on for them. And she loves this database. One of the features in here is they have this lifestyle market. So what they do is they segment markets by the kinds of activities that people do, and they give them clever names. And she has the students put in their zip code and then read the lifestyle report, and they almost invariably say, yeah, that's right on. Now, just to mention, all of these databases generally have at least some useful, like here you see tutorials. So they'll have some guides on using the database. And here they have some actual videos analyzing market size and demographics. So you could watch this video and get some information about that. There are others that are on getting started. Let's see, looking for, I saw one earlier. But at any rate, it's to keep in mind that you come up with a database like that, you really don't know where to start. You can look for tutorials and quick start guides, and that can help you. And thinking about it, this is demographics, market size, those kinds of things. That's what I would use this database for. Now, there are a number of other ones. So if we can get back. Not to go into it too far, but you can get into some articles and journals that are not freely available. I don't know if you're familiar with the Florida Small Business Development Center Network. I'm pretty sure that actually Wanda probably knows about it, but at any rate, this is an organization that helps entrepreneurs and both startups and ongoing businesses to develop their business. They have the Scale Entrepreneurship database. I haven't taken a look at it. The main point is you do have access to some good databases through Florida Electronic Library. And so I wanted to make sure you knew that. Now, just briefly, I say that Google is your best friend and your worst enemy, but you can't do without it. And when I say that is that anybody can publish anything on the internet. So you don't know necessarily that the report is reliable, up to date, authoritative. There's something called the crack test, which can help you with that. If you go back to the market research tutorial and where it says search Google, Google News, Google Help actually gives you some specific search tips. One of the ones that I use, you can search by file type. So I'll often search by file type PDF, and I can find reports that way. This actually explains what the CRAP test is. Here are kind of things to think about. Is the information current? Is it timely, up to date? Is it relevant for what you need? Is it credible? What kind of, who's writing it? Do they have credentials? Do they have a reputation? Accurate, is it accurate in the sense of, are these facts true? And then what's the purpose of the information? Is it to inform, teach, sell, persuade? I can't go into a thorough analysis of all the sources that I use, but I have a pretty good idea from experience of what kinds of things I will think are relevant. So some of the things, for example, government information sources like Bureau of Labor Statistics, I know that they do very careful surveys, collect the data. So that's database and it's an authoritative organization. Something else that I just wanted to mention. Okay, so let's look at a couple of things. Some sources that you can find on the internet are every business, line of business has some kind of trade association group. A lot of these are membership, but they often provide quite a bit of information about the market. I think were you able to install MyBib and the extension? It's okay if you weren't. I'm just going to show you why I'm such a big fan. Let's see if I can find, like, let's try, I don't know, ice cream. Okay, can you see this? So you can see a number of different, okay, even Wikipedia has a list of popular ice cream brands. A lot of these I would sort of have to look at. Good Housekeeping, you know. Why would I think this is a good source? Well, you know, this is a magazine that's been in business for a long time, and they have an editorial process. So their journalists, they gather information, but it's all fact checked. Okay, so they can't make any assertion that they want. Now, this may not be the best source, but what I'm going to do is use this little MyBib extension. And you can see this gives me a citation. I can copy and paste that, or I can save it to a project. And this is actually not where I want. I have an ice cream market project. So as I'm going along searching, I can use that MyBib to download and put the reference into my bibliography, into my project. And earlier, when I was just looking around, I found this State of the Industry 2021. And aside from the citation, it also gives you the URL. So I was able to, one complimentary report. Well, this is the report I'm interested in. This gives me an overview of the industry, recent trends, a lot of really good information about the ice cream industry. I guess one of the things these companies try to do almost every year is come up with new flavors. I guess try to keep things fresh. Let me see if I can find. Oh yeah. So a segment of ice cream is what they call indulgent. What was it? Indulgent limited edition ice cream flavors. Okay, so that's the premium segment that I'm interested in. It's called indulgent. Now, I would never have imagined that. So as you're going through these resources, you'll come across terms that you can use in your searches. terms you may not have known about. So, ice cream, but then I find frozen desserts and some of the other novelties, some of the other terms that are used. And also I can see what the big companies are doing here. And, the trends where they're introducing new flavors and they're all targeting this premium segment. And I found it earlier, but see, I used my bib to put it in my bibliography. And so I don't have to go, what happens to me if I go and copy and paste or bookmark things, a lot of times I just lose it. I remember that, hey, this was a good source, but I can't find it. So if I use my bib, then I can and create a project, I can always do that. I mentioned about associations. Whoops. So there's one called International Dairy Foods Association, and this gives all kinds of details about, statistics about ice cream, ice cream production, marketing, sales, consumption, etc. Now, what you'll find is these organizations are generally member organizations. So you have to be a member to get access to everything, but they'll often have a substantial amount of information available to the public because they're promoting the organization. They want newspaper journalists and others who are interested in the industry to get the facts. So you will run into paywalls, but oftentimes you can get some really good information. And in fact, if I go back here, this is what's called a trade journal, or now since it's on the internet, it's called like an e-magazine. And you can register and get access to almost all of their articles. So if you're an ice cream fanatic, anybody like ice cream? All right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I really don't want to talk too much more. I hope this will give you a little bit to get started on. So what I would suggest, you're in your group, pick one of the projects that people are working on rather than trying to do each one. So I got a list of the statements. So among your peers, select one as a group and then go out and use some of these sources or techniques to see what you can find. And some specific questions to think about are, okay, trying to get the big picture. So that's what this state of the industry shows me. What's the market size for the entire ice cream industry? How much is sold every year? What are the segments? And again, I find out that they have this terminology with the indulgent. As you're searching around, pay attention to the terminology used because you can use those as a search term. So we're looking for market overviews, kind of like the big picture. And also, who's the main customer and what kind of characteristics do they have? You'll also find other things that are useful. And finally, this is the 5-minute research is look for experts, names of experts, industry insiders, organizations, groups, and people that you could contact because you'll be able to get their names and emails and follow up with them to help you answer some of these questions to get to know more about the industry, because actually these are the people, the insiders, the experts, who know the most about these lines of business. So you can find things published, but they're your best source if you can find someone. And you can write to people, and you just keep trying. A lot of times you'll what would you say, hit somebody's button. If you're passionate about something, you can't even shut up about it. So that's true. Some of these people, see if you can find some of those. So just be alert for people that might be able to help you. Here's something, for example, Kathy Canning, pretty good name for an ice cream researcher, I guess. And so, her email's probably there. I could say, dear Miss Canning, I read your articles on this website, found them extremely informative. I'm new to the business. Do you have any suggestions as to where I can get more information, who I might be able to talk to? And just charm them, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get in the breakup rooms. Now, while you're in the rooms, you're free to ask questions, I guess. I think like you can raise your hand, or I don't know exactly how that works because I've never managed one. I know that someone is going to manage that. Who's going to be managing the breakout rooms?
So we'll divide and conquer. JB already created the breakout rooms, and so she'll open them up, and then
Okay.
We'll distribute ourselves to assist them with it, but they're pretty good at breakout rooms at this stage.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and try that. And we'll take about 20 minutes to around a little after 7:30, let's say. And take some of my scatterbrained ideas and see what you come up with. And afterwards, we'll talk about it and see what your experience is. It's, a little hands-on experience oftentimes beats anything else.
All righty, so we will go ahead. Is everyone clear on what they're doing? We're good? All right, JB, let's go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. Great, she has them open. All right, and we will get in there. All right, Katie, pick a room.
I will head into room 1.
Darn, I knew you was gonna say that. Actually, I don't think it was even, it's better either room you go to. All right. Oh, shoot, we're recording. Welcome back. Hopefully that was fun and productive. How did it go for you guys?
Good. It was fun.
Fun and productive.
All right. Did we get a good handle on how to use some of those tools? Yes. Okay.
I think so. Some of them, though, we tried to send them to each other, like in the chat, and we couldn't. It said, like, put your library card. So I don't know, but we could see them individually.
Which one?
They came, they mostly came from like the Broward County a library. If I'm remembering that correctly?
Okay, here's what you need to do. You should get a local library card if you don't have one. And like I have one in Alachua County. So in addition to the Florida Electronic Library, I can also log into the Alachua County Library and access any of their databases. And they have some that Florida Electronic Library doesn't have. So you may be, what would we call it? Carded? You probably haven't been carded since you were 21, right? This is library carded. So that's, it's a simple thing to do. Also, maybe you won't be surprised to hear librarians really like to help people. So if you have any problems accessing, let's say, the local libraries or your library, public library, you can call them up. They'll help you figure it out and get it resolved. So.
I'm
that's my-
I second Peter's thoughts on librarians. Like, I think they're underutilized. And because of it, I unfortunately, when I do get access to a librarian, I completely monopolize their time. It's like, oh, no one else is here. How much more information can I help? Can you help me find? Like, it is a wealth of information that is just, everyone thinks, you know, Google search will get you there, but sometimes you don't even know what to look for. And you think you're in the right direction, but you're missing out on so much information. And they have access to databases and to think about things in a way that, you know, we're not accustomed to. So definitely utilize them.
And that's true. Oh, by
I
the
have a
way,
question for Peter. If we're gonna meet tomorrow, what's the best thing? Should I be prepared with a list of keywords? Or what should I be prepared with to make it the? easy?
Which topic did your group research?
I do local, personal concierge work, clutter clearing.
Okay. And how did it go? Were you able to find something?
I started a little, I found like when you were talking before, the National Concierge Association, so I'm
Oh.
already kind of see a few.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I'm just gonna put together some keywords, I think, for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, definitely as you come, you know, as you do, I mean, a lot of times I start out, I don't know really anything about the topic. So I'll start playing around with some keywords and phrases, but as I come across something I think is relevant, I pay attention to what kind of words and phrases they're using. And then I can use those in additional searches. And that can really make a huge difference if you find the right terminology. Oh, I wanted to mention, there is a statewide group, really almost all of the public and academic libraries participate in, called Ask a Librarian. And we have it, but almost all libraries have it. So even let me see if I can find it. Librarian Florida. Yeah, here you go. So if you just put in Ask a Librarian Florida.
You want to share your screen, Peter?
Let me share this briefly. So this is the home page. Now, if you go to the library, our library website, there'll be I forget what they call it, rolls out and asks you if you need help all the time. It actually gets kind of irritating to me, but the point is you have access to librarians who we staff this, you know, during the whole day, the evenings, and it's a cooperative venture. So there'll be librarians from all kinds of different organizations, and you can even use text or chat. If I were to say chat with a Florida librarian, I just fill this out, click chat now, and somebody would answer it. And so you have questions about information, anything really, services. You can hop on here almost anytime, day or night, and ask some questions. And if you don't get enough information, wait a little while and do it again, you get somebody else. It's like having your own little reference librarian ready to help you almost anytime.
Yeah, that I agree with Katie. That's super dangerous. This is good.
Yeah, it's like right now, I mean, during the pandemic when we were all at home, I was probably staffing our share, were like, I don't remember how many hours, 4, 6 hours a week, something like that. And so it's not as busy now that people are kind of going back to, ordinary activities. But there's a steady stream, and that's just here what we're getting. And you've got people all over the state participating. Now, a lot of times what I would do, if somebody asks me a question and I really don't know the answer, I'll try to think about who they can contact that may have a good answer for them. Now, in the context of University of Florida, maybe there's a question about something in our archives. I don't know a lot about that. So what I would do is get the contact information for the librarian who specializes in that, and the email, the phone number. And a few times I've actually emailed them myself, copied the person who's asking the question, and follow it up that way. Don't give up.
Persistence is key.
Yeah. Pays off.
That's awesome. This is really good, Peter. I think I don't know about anybody else, but I'm kind of seeing a lot of light bulbs go off, at least during our breakout room, where I think people are really getting the gist of the value of this. So this is pretty awesome.
Anybody else want to just comment on what their experience was? It doesn't have to be positive. It can be anything. You felt like you needed more help, or you did find some things that look promising. Don't be shy.
I did find out that you have to be very specific and general. For mine, for example, is a custodial service. And you can't just type in custodial, because at one site they gave us like thousands of articles. But if you have to be like I think Lisa said, have a keywords to zone in on. So, but I think it gave some great information. We found a real cool article that interests me a lot. And my team also found some other things as well. So we found it to be a very valuable experience.
Oh, that's good. And do keep in mind that I'll bet there's a custodial services of America organization or something like that. And maybe some that, not just the big contracts, but smaller contracts. I mean, like in Gainesville, there are services here that provide services for some of the smaller businesses.
Peter, I want to touch on a question Lisa kind of asked. For all of them that are preparing to schedule meetings for you, is there anything you want them to kind of keep in mind, or have questions you want them to be prepared to answer, or how do you want them to prepare to meet with you?
Well, really, there isn't. I mean, we can start from scratch. And because what I normally do is, we start out with a little conversation. I like to get to know people a little bit that I'm working with. And so I'll ask you a lot of questions to try to get a handle on what your interests are. And I'm also curious about people's backgrounds, where they grew up, what they do. I've had a lot of fun working with some of Wanda's farmers, talking to them, and I learn a lot that way. So usually I begin by just trying to get to know people a little bit, find out a little bit more about what their interest is, and then we can start trying to focus on exactly what kind of information they want, and search together and see what we can find, come up with ideas. This kind of market research, it's really hard to do. It's like what I might even call bespoke market research. You're making a suit, a special suit of clothes, and there's no big organization or where a lot of this, let's say, market research has been done that you have access to. You've got to figure out maybe on a small scale. And some of them are, some of the ones I've worked with over the years, they can be really tough. But usually we can find some kind of information, some kind of angle to approach it. I hope we don't leave too many people crying after the session. Or say that guy really, he just moved. One is crazy. One is crazy.
No, this is all good. This is all good. Well, if no one else have any questions, or I think we can wrap this up. I think this is good, and hopefully you guys have gotten on Peter's schedule. I know he has limited capacity this week, but he has time next week as well. Like, you really want to build in your market research because you're going to need this for your pitch decks. And so, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after this, but this is kind of one of the things that people want to know, right? Is there a market for what you're trying to do? Who cares, right? Like, yes, you found a customer base. Yes, you found an important problem, but is this is kind of what divides the line. Is this a hobby or is this a business? Because if there's no market, AKA no way to really make some money in this space, then you don't really have a business. You have a really expensive hobby. And so this is kind of that information that makes, you know, that kind of can hurt your heart a little bit, right? Like, it's like you can be super passionate about something, and it's okay if you want it to be a business or a hobby business where you barely make enough just to kind of pay for having the business, but it's something you're super passionate about, that's fine. But I want you to at least go into it knowing what it is.
And there's Sylvia. She's been very quiet. I don't know if she can hear me.
I'm here.
Oh, good, good. Well, I mean, we've already met, so you're very enterprising, you know, getting in early. Hopefully you found some of the stuff we talked about useful.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's good to hear. And yeah, she was telling me all about the stuff that she does, and really it's intriguing to me. I learned so much from the people I work with. And she's got a mission in this world.
I love it. Sylvia on a mission. I love it. Well, so if there are no more questions, I'm going to say thank you, Peter. This is awesome. And I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot from, oh, Lisa, was that a question or were you waving by?
I was waving. See you tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, we have an appointment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Lisa's on your schedule for tomorrow, and I don't know who else has made the cut yet, but like I said, they hopefully will be filling up your calendar soon. So thank you again,
Okay.
Peter.
Well, you're welcome. Nice to meet everybody. See you again. Bye now.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All righty. That was awesome. Thoughts? Y'all were super quiet, so I
He's
don't know
a
what
character.
Peter is.
I'll be ready for tomorrow. I'll be ready. That's
He's
great.
so good. He just like rattles it off, you know? It's just, you tell he like lives and breathes this stuff.
Yes, he does. You could, and that's typical of most librarians. Like, it's like, this is what they do. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want your life, but I so appreciate you. Any other thoughts on that? Did anybody feel lost, confused, not really sure what to do with it? Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about next. So what we're going to talk about before. Oh wait, sorry, Chris. You said you were overwhelmed. Oh, with the amount of research you got to do. It does feel like drinking from a fire hydrant sometimes, but this is why, like, you have to narrow your scope. And this is why we kept saying, like, you guys want to be very specific in how you're starting, because it's once you dig in there, you realize it keeps expanding and you narrow some more, focusing on that when you start, and then you add on the other groups as you grow. But if you start off trying to kind of take it all in, it's a lot. So, I do want to kind of give you guys, yes, the keywords specifying for something that can get really crazy, but it does. And this is why it helps to do something like this with someone like Peter, because it can kind of help you kind of get the hang of kind of navigating those paths, and then you'll know a little bit more in terms of doing it yourself. And so he'll search specific databases, but once you learn the process with him, you take the same keywords and you apply it across other databases, and then you start to know how to play with it and refine your process. And so what I said in the chat earlier is there's, so honestly, the way I've worked with Peter in the past, he pulls up a lot of resources. And like I mentioned to the group, the first time I worked with Peter for my own company, I didn't actually need to even do a search after him. He gave me so much, it was all that I needed. And so that can happen. But even still, if you come away and like, oh man, I really want to get more of this, and you don't have access to a specific database, you can let myself or JB know, because we're both UF employees, we can go in and pull them for you. So, and you should know the specifics of the database, the keywords, et cetera, that you need, and we should be able to pull those things for you. So one of the things that we're gonna do, that I wanna kind of talk to you guys briefly about to kind of prepare. So, so even though this week is the last week of us together as a cohort, August 17th, because we're going to give you guys some bandwidth to prepare, is when we're planning our pitch night, right? So you have from this week, so roughly about 3 weeks to prepare for pitching. There's an organization called the Venture Mentoring Network that you're going to work with. And they're a team of mentors that are pretty amazing, because this is kind of their first introduction to you guys. But these are like these are VCs, angel investors. This is a network of people that can really help you grow your business. And they will stay with you. If kind of you rotate in their network, they will stay with you until your business acquires that first round of seed funding.
They like Shark Tankers.
They can be a little intense, but they're not Shark Tankers, but they're very direct, and they're really, and so this,
and so if I may, for my limited, it's like, would it be like pitching to Shark Tank? Just from my limited.
Let me get there. So essentially, this is the end of the hand holding portion, right? This is when you are ushered into working with the rest of the world. But to get you ready for that, they will help you work on your pitches. And so essentially what it's going to be like before pitch night. So you're going to start interfacing with them about August 1st to August and pitching on August 17th. In that time frame, they are going to want to, they're going to want to see your pitch decks. So what's going to happen is I'm going to start talking about pitch decks today and pitching. We're going to go a little bit more on Wednesday. We do also have a speaker on Wednesday. Katie and I will need to see a draft of your pitch deck, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And we're going to help work with you guys. We're going to make ourselves available before you are handed off to them. We're going to do as best as we can to get you ready, but only to the magnitude that you guys submit and participate and correspond with us. Once we hand you off to them, they'll start working with you, and they'll assign, because they have a network of over 200 mentors. So they'll find the mentors who are in the spaces that best align with your businesses. And then they will try to coordinate with each other and have kind of like an office hour. So maybe 2 or 3 mentors will get together, and 2 or 3 of your classmates will get together. And so you're pitching to an audience, and you're getting real-time feedback and support. So this is where your classmates are really there kind of cheering you on as you're kind of facing the sharks, as Lisa put it, right? And this is not to be intimidating. This is really getting ready for the real world experiences of talking about your business to people who are not here to go to bat for you, who might not understand your business, and really trying to get the ideas to resonate with them. So if you think August 17th and working backwards, we're going to send you guys some dates. So you really start to think about what your deliverables are and when and why, right? So I want to kind of paint you guys a full picture so you know how things are going to go, right? And so we're going to talk about kind of like a pitch deck outline, right? And I want that from you guys. And a lot of the things that we're saying in these pitch decks is information you have already been working on. All the stuff that we've been acquiring, you're taking them together and you're putting them in some short bullets and some pretty slides, right? But these are things you should be able to rattle off. Like, who are you? What's your company? Who's your customer? What's the problem? What's the solution? And so it's all the same things that we have been talking, rinse, lather, repeat. There's nothing new under the sun. The only new information that you really should be adding is the stuff from your market research, which we'll talk about, and the stuff that we'll talk about on Wednesday, which is kind of your revenue, right? What are your sources of revenue and how are you pricing your products? So those should be the only 2 new pieces. And they know you guys are coming out of a pre-incubator, so they know you might be a little shaky on that part, but everything else, your customer, you should be solid, right? The problem space, you should be solid. The need, you should be solid, right? All the things that we've been kind of repeating, there's no question that you not sure or unclear on, right? And so these are the things that we want you guys to come in ready for. And in the areas that, you know, we know you're going to be a little wobbly, they will understand that and expect that, right? So I just kind of wanted to paint that picture. Any questions on that before I kind of do kind of a quick overview on some pitching stuff?
I did one. Is it okay if I jump in really
Yeah,
quickly?
sure, please.
So as you guys are working on your pitches, once you get the basics and you've tried to, you know, make it look good, if you want help, there's a variety of resources that I have in terms of graphic design. Like if you have a picture, a mock-up of a computer screen, I can make it look like someone sitting on a couch looking at you, you know, on a laptop, playing with your computer screen or using a tablet. I can do a bunch of things like that for you pretty easily. So if you guys want to reach out to me, show me what you have, and then I can maybe throw out some ideas for you. I'd be happy to do that. But like Wanda said, it requires that you guys put in your effort and communicate, because I'm not gonna be on kind of this statement right now. This is the offer. So I want you guys to feel free to reach out and to please use us to help you get those pitch decks to where they need to be. That's it. That's my part.
So there is no reason come August 17th, you have no clue what to do or what to expect. This should be something that you guys should be more than ready to prepare for. So the decks, your pitch decks and your presentation, this is what we're gonna spend the rest of our time, you know, refining. And so the time that you're getting back on Monday and Wednesday night, you're not done. This is when you're working on those pieces, right? You're putting it together, you're practicing it. You need to talk to each other in the forum, right? You're testing out different parts like, hey, I'm really trying to figure out how to word this or put this in. This is where you guys need to be leveraging your support tools and resources accordingly. Any
Can
questions?
I add something real quick?
Please.
So I just wanted to say, we are gearing up for cohort 2. So come August 5th, that'll be the last day for them to use the platform so that we can do some maintenance work on the back end to get ready for cohort 2. So yes, you all have your pitches in August, but August 5th is going to be the last day that you can use the platform so we can do some maintenance there. That's all I got.
And you'll get access to it again after that. We're just gonna, you'll have access to it after. But so anything you need to prepare for your pitches, you wanna pull those down August 5th, and the website will go down for about a week or so. So we can do some back end maintenance so we can start to, because our year kind of got back ended, as soon as your cohort ends, we go exactly into cohort 2. And so we need to prepare the platform for that. So the videos, yeah, as JV said, the YouTube videos will still up, and she can email you those links if you don't have, if you don't get them from the forum before that. But anything like specifically like the things you've submitted, again, we can get them to you, but it's probably easier, which is part of why I want your draft. So here's the goal: before August 1st, you should just be working on refining the look and feel, right? Today is July 18th, right? And so next Monday is, sorry, I'm bad at dates. Next Monday is July 25th. You guys should have a rough draft of your pitches that we can give you some feedback. So by the time we hit the end of the month of the end of that week, July 29th, you should have everything you've needed from the platform for your pitch decks, right? That you were refining. Now, if say once we hand over, because that's when we plan on, that Friday is when we plan on handing those pitch decks to the venture mentoring group so they can start to source mentors for you. Once we do that, if they come up with some stuff, you'd be like, oh, I have that. You know, in a meeting with them and say, hey, you need this, like I have that, but I didn't include it. And for whatever reason, and you don't have access during that time frame, we can definitely send you whatever you feel like is missing. But if you want to go in there and harvest stuff yourself, July 5th is kind of a hard stop where the site will go down for a little while. One more thing the Venture Mentoring Network wanted me to mention to you guys is meeting with the mentors. If they said, even though I know our classes in the evening, getting the mentors to meet with you guys, it's harder after the 9 to 5 hours. So if you guys have any availability, starting the first, that starting, I think August 1st is when they're kind of, when I say August 1st, I don't even know what day that falls on. So that might be, so not, yes. So starting the 1st, if you have any availability during the day, I need you guys to send me kind of like typical. So say it's like, you know, you have your lunchtime Monday through Friday, or you have some times during the day that you know you're going to be available. Let me know so I can let them know, because you'll have more mentors to select from, more mentors to select from during that 9 to 5 time frame, right? And so it's kind of like everyone else. Some of them, this is part of their 9 to 5, and they are not really interested in doing it in after hours. So if you don't, that's okay. They can still work with that too. But if there's any availability during the 9 to 5, please shoot me a message. In fact, you could just put it in the chat right now. And then we can have that information. And so we can share that with them of like, hey, because we already sent them the description of your businesses. We can say, hey, this person is available, you know, typically, you know, on these days, you know, during the 9 to 5 time frame. So please send that information along. I think those were the announcements I had. And JB said she'll email the playlist after Wednesday's class. So the playlist of all of our sessions, will kind of go out that way. Questions before we jump into more details of pitching? Thank you guys who started putting your hours in there. Okay, so, all right. So, okay, awesome. So we're gonna jump into more on the pitching. Katie and JB, feel free to hop off because this is just kind of me talking. I wanted to make sure you were here for the pieces that you chimed in on, because you guys always have some great information. And I'm going to share my screen. And I apologize if I talk fast, but I always have to work around Peter and how much he's gonna go. So I have to get creative. All right. So we're just gonna do a general overview of pitching, and then I'm gonna show you an example of a pitch outline. And then when we meet on Wednesday, I'll go a little more in depth about kind of what a pitch deck would look like. I just kind of want to for some of you who are new to pitching, want to just kind of do an intro into kind of what pitching entails. Actually, let me not start here, and let me start off with a video on pitching. That is probably, that'll get you there faster. There we go. And share screen.
Pitch. In this video, we're going to give you the tips, the resources, and most importantly, the 7 steps you need to write that perfect pitch. What is an elevator pitch exactly? First of all, not every elevator pitch is going to be given in an elevator. It's just a common phrase people use to describe the moment where you need to quickly explain your business to an interested investor or potential client. At B-Plans, we even have a free pitch deck template that lets you write your pitch in a presentation format. So whether it's written down on one page or delivered in person, the perfect elevator pitch can be broken down into these 7 essential parts. First, you need to cover the problem. Are bicycle sales skyrocketing, but so are bicycle thefts? Then you might have found a problem worth fixing. And that leads us to the next part of your pitch. If you're going to bring up your problem, then you need to talk about your solution. A common business mistake is to propose a solution when a problem doesn't actually exist. Nobody needs to buy a home security system for their property on the moon, yet. Another common mistake is to create a product or service that tries to solve too many problems at once. Start with one actual problem and provide one solid solution. In the third part of your pitch, you need to talk about your target market. Who's your product for? And don't just stop there. You want to talk about market segments you're targeting, how many people are in each segment, and the total amount they currently spend. At bplans.com, we have helpful resources on how to conduct market research for your business idea. Once you describe your target market, you'll also need to explain who else is trying to reach them. In other words, who's your competition? If you don't think you have any competition, then you're just not thinking hard enough about this. Competition can be direct, but it can also be indirect. If your product is a board game, your direct competition is other board games. But indirect competitors include video games, movies, books, outdoor sports, or other leisure activities. The fifth part of your pitch covers your team. Who are the people working with you? You might not have employees or partners on payroll yet, but you need to know the essential job roles that should be filled. Next, you need to give a financial summary. It doesn't have to be complex, but it does need to be well thought out. This is one of the main areas where investors separate good ideas from bad ideas. Bad ideas are revealed by unrealistic financial expectations, inaccurate calculations, or a complete lack of business knowledge. It will be hard to convince Bill Gates to invest in you if he has no idea how much money you want from him or how much he can expect to earn back on his investment. The seventh and final part of your pitch is a list of your milestones. What goals do you plan to achieve, and when do you plan to achieve them? Have you already reached some milestones? If so, bring those up. If you want to open a restaurant, investors will want to know if you've already signed the lease on your location and when you plan to open your doors. Even with these 7 parts, a perfect elevator pitch still has to be clear, concise, and compelling. You should be able to explain everything in about 60 seconds. If you can't do that, cut out more and get to the point. You never know when Bill Gates will step into your elevator. For more pitch advice, check out our elevator pitch guide on bplans.com. You can also download our investor pitch deck template kit, which includes the 11 essential slides in a pitch presentation.
All righty. All right, so some pitching basics. So some basic things to really think about when you're doing a pitch. Do include wording at the bottom of your pitch that says something about confidential and proprietary. This is not necessary for our class, but it's a good practice to have because I can't tell you how many times I either meet with a potential investor or licensor or I'm submitting to a program and I was like, hey, can you send a pitch deck? And even though the words don't necessarily have as much power behind it by just saying confidential, like it's still, I just want to, put that out there. So it's just something I want you guys to kind of have in terms of practice or do in terms of practice. Do convince the viewer why the market opportunity is large, right? And so this is the responsibility on you, the burden of proof is on you to convince whoever is watching or listening to you that there is a true market opportunity here. Do include visuals, interesting graphics and images. It's the whole picture's worth 1,000 words. Like if you have a super wordy slide like this one, most people will check out, right? And so during your pitches, you want to keep the words minimum, but keeps the visuals, but don't have like pointless visuals, right? It has to really speak to what is it that you are trying to say on that slide, right? And so if I'm selling a line of diapers, for adult diapers to parents of special need kids, etc., right? Then I need maybe a picture that kind of shows, a parent of of an adult child trying to change a diaper, something of that nature, right? To really drive home, who's my customer, right? Do send the pitch deck in a PDF format to prospective investors in advance of a meeting. I can't tell you how many times everyone doesn't have Microsoft Word or things get messed up. So it's kind of the best way to kind of share that. Do you plan on having a demo part of your product? That's not always the case, especially for the stage that you guys are at with your products or services, and not always feasible, but it is something, if capable, that is recommended. It makes it real. So if you ever watch Shark Tank, they bring a sample of their product, right? They demo something, right? It's something when they go home and they talk to 20 different companies that pitch, they're going to remember, oh, that's the dude with the sock thing, right? So you want something that makes it memorable, that makes you stand out. Do tell compelling, memorable, and interesting stories that shows you're passionate for your business. This is something it took me a long time to get. I'm kind of here's the facts, here's why it's great, here's who it helps, that's all you need to know. And investors, or even just people who are hearing it, why is this important to you? Why is this important to anybody? And not to say you have to go in there with some sad song of like, you know, some sad story of why this business is essential, but you do want to connect it to you, and you want to make it memorable, right? And so the question people always ask, why this business, and why are you the face for this business, right? How do I connect you with this, right? And so showing that you're passionate with that interest in a story form, because essentially your whole pitch is a story, right? It's you, it's your product, is your business. You are the face, you are that brand. And so therefore they see it all together. Investors always say they invest into you before they invest in your business. And I use the term investors lightly because some of you aren't interested in investors, but they represent kind of a gold standard. If you get an investor interested, someone who's looked at all these businesses, who kind of, you know, been there, done that, seen it all before, then you know you've arrived. So even though you're not interested in investors, it's kind of the language what everyone else is looking for, but they might not say it. And this is potential business collaborators. This is even some of your clients. They're looking for that same thing, right? I need to know that you are like in it to win it, and you're not going to leave me hanging. You're going to show up for your appointments. You're going to follow through. These are all the same things they're using to judge, right? And so you pull from these to kind of reinvent yourself for every stakeholder that you interact with. Do show you have more than just an idea, that you have gotten an early traction on development of the product, getting customers, or signing up partners. So this is where we talked about some of our customer discovery. This is where you kind of want to show that I've talked to X amount of people, and you know, they said this about the problem, and they identified with the solution this way. So remember, all along I was saying like, hey, whatever increment, whatever step you are in building your company, talk to more people, right? So from the empathy stage down to your paper prototypes, take it all out and talk to people, right? So now that you're at the pitch stage, you say, I've talked to over 30, 50 people, and they all say the same thing about the problem, and they all identify with my solution, and they all, right? You want to show that this is bigger than you, because if you're the only one that cares, I guarantee you no one else is going to care either, right? And so you want to show that you have that kind of traction, you have people interested, you're collecting contact information, right? You have that list, right, of potential customers, right, that you can kind of go back and interact with. Even if they don't buy, they put you in contact with a greater network of people that can also be potential customers. Have sound bites for investors to remember you by. So this is kind of your little cutesy catchphrases, right? You'll hear a lot of companies say, right? Just those little taglines. You say at the beginning, you say it at the end, right? You say it where they remember this business does X, right? Or this business cares about Y. Do you use consistent font size, header, titles? And this is one of those like small things that becomes really big. Some people are like, I always call some of my colleagues grammar polices. They twitch when they see things that, you know, the size isn't right, the font isn't right, it's not consistent, and they'll stop paying attention because they're all sitting there thinking about like, why, who did that, right? And they cannot focus on your presentation anymore because of these inconsistencies. So for you, you'd be like, hey, my pitch is solid, it doesn't matter. It really does matter. It's the little things for a lot of people. Pitching, don't make the pitch deck more than 15 to 20 slides. And that's actually still too long for a lot of people. That's great if you're, so what I do is I have hidden slides. So my pitch deck, and so your pitches will be, and I'll send out information, will be roughly about 5 minutes, give or take, probably more take, 5 minutes or less. And I'll give you details once I have the times worked out with the Venture and Mentoring Network. But you want to think about, you're speaking to a slide a minute, right? And actually, no, not even that. So you're thinking about roughly about 5 to 7 slides, right? And so that's kind of what you want to work with. You don't really want to go in there with too many slides, but what I do is I have hidden slides in case someone asks a question. I'm ready for it. And so I'm thinking to myself, what if they ask me more detail on this? I'll create the slide and I'll just hide it. So when question and answer, well, glad you asked, I have that right here. So you want to be thoughtful about what's to come, but you want to be respectful of the time and window that you're given. So don't worry initially about having too many slides. We'll help you scale that down. I want you to just kind of have them, and it will help you guys refine, and that the group will also work with you on that. Don't have too many wordy slides. I mentioned that before. People lose interest in reading and they'll like space out on you. Don't sit there and read your slides either. This is stuff you guys should know. and we'll know by the time we're done. Don't provide access to financial details, as they can be provided in follow-up. That's not necessary. The most you can do is kind of show like a chart, like here's what we hope to get to by this time frame, but no details are needed. It's not necessary. Don't try to cover everything in a pitch deck. You want to make sure that they reach back out to you to kind of fill in those blanks. And so, like I said, you have the slides ready for when they ask a question, but your goal isn't to try to cover everything. Your goal is to hook them, right? To garner their interest. And so you want to know the things that they get interested in, right? They get interested in the problem space. They see that growth opportunity, right? They see that market opportunity in that problem space for the target customer, and that you're actually solving a problem for that customer. Those are the things that they're honing in on. Once you get them on the hook, they'll follow up with you when they want more information. Don't use a lot of jargon or acronyms that they might not immediately understand. You know your space better than anybody, and you've been living and breathing. Don't assume they have. A lot of them will have domain expertise in a lot of broad areas, but don't lose them in especially in versus not here. Especially, I always say a lot of people in medical and a lot of these sectors, they go heavy in the jargon, right? And you know, you get excited because this is your native tongue in a lot of ways, but that's not necessarily true for your audience. So be mindful of that. Don't underestimate or belittle your the competition, right? That's something that I see people do that's just really ugly. Like, well, you know, the next guy, they're not doing. I mean, you can say like, here's what I'm doing that the competition is not, but you don't want to belittle them. Make sure your pitch deck doesn't look out of date. Style matter, right? Eye-catching, things that they're going to pay attention to. You don't want a date on the cover page that's several months old. Sometimes, and they mentioned avoid putting dates all together because you might be reusing this for quite some time, and someone might ask you and you forget to go back and update that date, right? And so you want to kind of pay attention to that. Don't have a poor layout, bad graphics, or low quality look and feel, right? Sometimes people want to use like family pictures to show that they care, but it's like grainy and we can barely see your dog and cat, right? Like that doesn't really help you. Right. So when you kind of think about it, you want to think about all the different ways you can pull things together to really tell that story in a concise manner. So notice the last couple of weeks, we've kind of used one theme, concise, right? Taking 10 weeks of information, make it concise, make it compact, right? So it was kind of, you know, these nice, neat storyboards, right? And then we went down and we made them into paper prototypes, right? And then we went down and we made them in the wireframes, right? And now you're making them in the bullet points on like 5 slides, right? And so the theme is the same, right? And that's the whole thing. And that's why the theme of elevator pitch is used, right? It's basically making sure that you can quickly and clearly convey your ideas to anybody, right? Any stakeholder, and they walk away knowing what you do, why you do it, and why it's important, and what the growth opportunity is in that space. So you want to be able to answer a couple questions. What does your business do? Who are your customers? What are the key benefits you offer your customer? And why is your company better than your competitors? What information gives your firm more credibility? Is there a clear and clean business sector that your company fits? These are some things you really want to be able to answer. And we're going to do an activity next time. I know we are low on time, so I won't kind of attempt the breakout rooms right now. But next time we'll do some breakout rooms. We're going to try and put some rough pitches together on some hypothetical companies so you guys kind of get a handle of this. But I wanted, and so I will go through some of this again, but I wanted to kind of go through this really quickly. And so I will not give you a clear-cut template for elevator pitch or for your pitch decks, because pitch decks vary so much based upon the nature of your business. I will give you guys some things to consider and some templates for general rule of thumb, but it will be so different for each of you, right? And so with each of these slides, they're saying, hey, here's a template, here's another template, but they're all getting at basic same information, the essentials. Who are you? What you do? What makes you unique? And what do you, how do you do it? And who does it affect? So I always use the example of, you ever kind of talk to some older people and they're very clear cut on what they want. Who you? What you want, what your people is, right? Like their questions are very clear, right? Give me the facts before you engage me in anything else. I don't want the fluffy stuff. I don't want the feel good stuff. I want to know what this is about and the nature of this. And now that you have me hooked in, now let's have a conversation, right? Tisha, you caught that one? So, and this is something we'll get into more next time because I want you guys to work on coming up with that sentence. And the sentence is what you will build on. So maybe we'll get through it before tonight's over, but I want to show you a thing or two before yeah, okay, real quick. I want to talk about something. Have you guys all come up with names for your businesses? Yes? I see 2 nods and a thumbs up. Okay.
Any
All right.
tips on it though? Some people have told me, oh, you should change your name. How do you decide and when do you know, right?
Your customers, with everything about your business, you're testing on your customers. So you're going to always go back, poll and survey your customers. And this
My
is why you gotta
customers
have,
like it. There you go.
yeah. So
My
you have
customers
to
like it.
keep a wide range of customers available because you can constantly test all pieces of your business. But some basic things to keep in mind, the name needs to sound good when it's said out loud, right? Sometimes stuff sounds good in our head, but when we say it out loud, it doesn't really work for a lot of people. So like tongue twisters are cute, but hard to remember. You know, that business that starts with a C, you know, the one that rhymes with such and such, right? Like it doesn't really help people. Use a name that has meaning to it and conveys the benefit. Avoid Web 2.0 syndromes. Beware of initials. And these are not hard, fast rules because you've seen.
What is that to-go syndrome?
One second. And so these are not hard, fast rules. You'll see for every rule that's stated, you'll see a company that has been very successful using that rule. So there is no like, if you do this, you'll fail. Or if you do this, you'll succeed. These are just kind of pointers. But again, with every, like when it says use a name that has meaning to it, we all can think of companies like, you know, like what was Google before it was Google, right? Like what did Google mean, right? So a lot of these companies that have been very successful using things that didn't have a whole lot of meaning, but they turned it into, right? Beware of initials. And again, there's several successful brands that have definitely used initials and have thrived. So these are kind of rule for thumb. Most companies change their name within 2 years of starting anyway. So don't like beat yourself over the head of finding the right one. Just kind of make sure that you have something that you feel like is a good starting point and be ready to pivot if your customers say different. Avoid 2.0 syndrome is more of the kind of like, and this is actually kind of an older comment or statement, but it's one of those trying to be chic, right? It's kind of like, I think when I think of the Web 2.0 syndrome, it's kind of like when you find that picture of you from high school and you thought you were in and you look now and it's like, ooh, that hair, right? And it's kind of that same idea where you're looking at these kind of trendy things now and you think this is great, but will that trend still hold in a year or two? And what will that make your business look like in a year or two, right? So kind of think about that. And so alliterations, using words that start with the same consonant. So Coca-Cola, Jimmy John's, those type of things, they stick with people for whatever reason, are really helpful. If you heard it, you'll know it right away. So like anything that resonates with people, like, oh, you do this. Oh, I get that, right? Make sure you can trademark the name. So you want whatever name you come up with, test it out and like doing Google searches and see what else is using. I remember I was working with a church website and they came up with a new name for their program that was so cool. And then if you put in that name in .com instead of .org, it pulled up like a porn site. And it was very complicated. So make sure you look at all the different versions of how you know, your business name is currently being used if it's something that is a common term. And so definitely test out on Google AdWords. And also pay attention to the flickings, the spelling. Some of that stuff I've seen out there, it's great, but like people will have a hard time of following up. Like I still can't spell Flickr. And anybody who ever remembers Flickr, I used to always mix it up like Flickr ER or R, and I always had to do a Google search when they first came out before I could actually get to their site. And some people take advantage of that, and so they'll do like spam sites when they know people kind of mess up like that. Also, don't use generic name that doesn't mean anything. If you do, make sure it's catchy. Some other things to kind of keep in mind. Follow your state naming guidelines. There are some rules to this, to some of this stuff. Don't pick a name that's too similar to a competitor's name. You guys remember the movie Coming to America? So instead of McDonald's, it was McDowell's. Yeah, that doesn't fly. I think about all the apps that end in ly. Yes, namely, plantly, brandly. Yeah, definitely, Atisha. Choose a name that people can spell and pronounce. Make sure it's web. Yeah, Calendly. You notice a pattern. Be unique, but not too unique. Pick a name that consonants your brand name. Don't limit yourself. Think about your industry. So you got to also think about who is your market, right? You can't market to a lot of little old lady using some trendy term that might sound like something vulgar to them, but that term has taken on new meaning over the years, right? So you want to be able to think through all of that. Online, so using like business name generators is help. Google AdWords, look up domain names that fit with that to make sure that it's something available. That's something Nell's going to ask you first off, is kind of what you want your domain name to be, and if you don't already have one. Avoid trademark infringement when you choose a domain name. So kind of all together, think about the be memorable, be simple, be concise, be short, legal rights, scope, age, compatible, creative, unique, right? Honestly, some of my entrepreneurs that I've worked with said coming up with a name for their business is probably one of the hardest tasks that they had to do. It's kind of like naming a child, right? Like this has to go on and live with this name, right? Like, you know, you better love it. And that's not true. Like I said, you can change it. But once you start building a brand identity, it is harder to change. Like, you know, Facebook is kind of undergoing their change to Meta, and it's going to take some time before they're Meta, right? They're always going to be like Facebook. Oh yeah, Meta, right? Like it's going to be a while before we start to associate them singularly as Meta. And then there'll come a generation that'll be like, what's the Facebook, right? And so that's when, you know, like times have changed, when no one actually recognizes their original name for that. All right, so what I want us to think through, we've talked about the pieces of a pitch deck. So I want us to, as we wrap up, because like I said, we'll spend some time going on into sentences next time, or coming up with our pitch sentences to kind of really get us going. But I do want to wrap up by showing you guys one of my favorite pitches that I think does a really good job. And no one's expecting you to do this, but I want you to take a look and pick out pieces of what he does well, and keep this in mind as you start to germinate on your pitches, on the pieces and parts of your pitches. And then I'll show you one more thing after that, and then we'll wrap up. So let's share screen. Come on, share screen. There we go. All right, this goes fast. It's less than a minute, but he covers all the bases that we talked about. Let's go.
It's a cold night and you're at your son's football game. After the first quarter, you realize these bleachers are so cold, my butt is numb. I have the perfect solution, the hot seat. The hot seat is a cushioned stadium seat with a heated base and back. Now, there are cushioned stadium seats available that aren't heated, and heated stadium pads that don't offer back support. The hot seat combines these two elements, providing a portable, cushioned, heated stadium seat with a USB port to charge your mobile device. According to worldstadiums.com, there are over 73 million outdoor stadium seats in America alone. I'll use the internet, my personal NFL connections, and amateur booster club organizations to sell 2,000 units by year 3, resulting in $120,000 in sales. I need $19K for development, manufacturing, and marketing. Investors can expect a 3x return by year 3. Don't let frost bite your buns. Get the hot seat.
All righty, talk to me. What did we hear there? What bases did he cover?
Yeah, he covered
All of them.
everything. Jeez.
So who is his audience?
Stadium owners? No, audience is the investors. Audience would be possible.
Attendees, right? Those are the users, right? So he is talking about investors, or to investors, but he's talking about the problem that who's the problem? Let me ask the question better. Who is he solving the problem for?
73 million seats available for those people.
People who go to stadiums, right?
And
So
are
whatever game.
cold.
So you
Yeah.
could immediately think of, if anyone has ever had to sit through a kids tournament, right? Where it's kind of like, oh, you won that round. Great. We're out here for a few more hours. Good job, Timmy. Right? Like there's a lot of parents that hear this on all levels is like, oh my God, yes, right? Like, but it's a warmer. So 9 times out of 10, he's probably not in Florida, right? We ain't trying to keep our buns warm. So he's probably for, people who are in colder climates that, want these comfortable seats, right? Who is his competitors?
He gave the two, the people who do the hot pads and then the people who have the cushion seats, but they're not heated.
Yep. So he mentioned people who had cushion seats that are not heated, and he also mentioned those that didn't have back support.
Back support.
Right. So he mentioned his competitors. He didn't bash them, but he said, "Hey, this stuff exists, but it doesn't have this, and I'm bringing the two worlds together." So he's
And a phone charger.
Oh, he did add his secret sauce. You can also charge your phone. What? Like he's killing it, right? He's kind
I'll
of
be
putting
there,
all the
yeah.
pieces together, right? So what else? What else did we notice about his pitch? Do I need to play it again?
He had his dollars down. He knew how much he needed. He knew his return.
He knew
He
his
gave a
market.
timeline.
He knew his market. He done his research. But did you also see his personal plug? I'll use my personal NFL connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He made it very clear. This isn't something I came up with just on a whim. I'm personally connected to this community.
I got
Right.
people, yeah.
Not
Now, one
just
thing he
about
didn't
people,
say was
but I'm
anything.
also vested.
The one line you said, like, to keep it simple with the financials, like, he didn't say how much it would cost. That's okay. He just
It's
said,
the whole
here's your
purpose.
ROI.
The whole purpose is to hook them. The details, if they're interested, they'll come back for the details. Think about this as a date, right? You're trying to interest, someone, a potential suitor. You're not about to give all the dirty laundry on that first date. No. We're going to keep this nice and sweet, right? We're going to give them just what they want to hear. You know what I mean? And we're going to give them the highlight reels that we know that's going to hook them. If it doesn't hook them, you want the right one to start off with, right? But if you are the right one, my key details, it's going to keep you coming back for more. And when you start asking the right questions, I know I got you. And then I'm going to, hit you with the good stuff, or maybe not so good stuff, but I'm going to hit you with the rest of it, right? But not on that first date, right? This is the swoon, right? We're winning them over. We're bringing them in. This is the courting stage. Any other thoughts on that one? So in your there's a show, I think it's on Netflix, or no, it's just online, that we'll talk about next time, that sorry, let me stop sharing. That we'll talk about next time, where they have pitch competitions and you could just watch them. And it's really interesting because they kind of show you kind of their thought process. And, some people feel like, if you watch enough Shark Tank, you kind of get the gist, but you start to pay attention, even on a lower level. What are the things that are missing, right? What are the things that are included? And those are the things I want you guys to be able to kind of think through, right? The pieces, right? You might not have all the answers, but I want you to know the pieces so you can start to incorporate them in what you're doing. Why is this not letting me open? There we go. All right. So one of the things I want you guys to do, and I think I forgot to give this to Katie, so I will get it to her so you can have this as a sample. So before you get into, this is a sample from one of my former entrepreneurs that I picked apart and I need to remove name of, but this is a sample so you can kind of see. So it's easy. I've had a lot of entrepreneurs that go to work on a pitch deck and they spend all their time and energy on making it pretty, that they realize their pitch decks aren't even saying anything. So before you get on the beautification stuff, I want you to think about what you're going to have on the slides, right? So you want an intro. And again, you don't have to use his wording, and I'm going to take that out when I send it to you guys. You want an intro, right? Who are you? What's the problem? Why do I care? Or I'm sorry, who are you, right? Who are you? What's your business? What is the problem? What is the solution? That market size. This is that information you're working to get when you talk to Peter, right? What is that market opportunity, right? That growth potential. and your business model, right? Kind of that quick overview of what is that value that you're offering to your customers, right? What are some of those details? Now, you're not going to use everything in this template. This is more so for you to organize your thoughts, and you're going to pull from here to create your pitch deck. So notice all this detail here. All of this detail is not going into your pitch deck, but for you to understand your story and to structure your story, I want you to just kind of write out a little template first, right? And just kind of think through, right? What is that competition? What is the milestone? Because as you can see, he covered all of that in his 1 minute, right? He covered an intro, he did the problem, he did the solution, he talked about the market size, he talked about the business model and the competition, right? And that business model is, what is the value he's providing? How is he going to make money? All of that, right, was covered in that 1 minute. And then what we'll throw in there is a milestone chart, right? And he talked about that in his little 1 minute as well, right? We're giving you guys a whole 5 minutes. Right? He summed it up in a minute. I'm giving you 5 minutes to tell your story, right? And so think of your pitch deck is really kind of a visual accompaniment for your speaking, but what they're really here for is to listen to you, right? This is your chance to tell your story. You put in all the details or times that you cannot, come alongside and help tell your story. But the times that you're there, you want them focused on you, not what's on the screen. So you want to make sure that they're hook, line, and sinker. So this is what you're putting together. This template will be almost like your mini script. It'll be what you'll pull from to create your deck, but this is what will help guide you. So I'm going to share this if you need it. If not, the slides that we talked about is actually going to really kind of help the information on the slides is really going to help you guys tell the same parts of your story. So it's, what does your company do? Who are your customers, right? All these pieces are the same thing, right? What's your competition? All the stuff is what we're pulling for all of this, right? And so I want you guys to kind of start playing around with it, and I'll send out like a loose template to follow. Do not feel bound by this. This is just a guide that I will provide. But I want you guys to Google other templates, Google other pitch decks. There's so much information out there, not just for the big popular companies, for a lot of other pitch decks are a dime a dozen. Use that, but I want you guys to kind of think through that and come up with a draft. And again, this could be like bullet points on a Word document, but I want to see where your thoughts are, right? And start organizing it. Any questions on this so far? That means y'all good? We cooking with grease now. Yes, I love it. I love it that you guys all feel so ready for prime time. Yes? Almost there? Don't worry, we'll get you there. This is why it's a group effort. You are ready. Ines, you are ready. I know it. Sylvia, you are ready. All of you guys, it's time to get out your head and put it out in the public space. We are all getting there. So I know I went a little over. I apologize, but I really wanted you guys to get this information and start really thinking through. So if you have not finished your value proposition, please get that done and submit it. If you have not finished your wireframes, please get those done and submit them so we can move you on to the next level. Because as you see, we're going to start having a backlog, right? So right now you should be working on the draft to your pitch deck outline, and we want to see those so we can start helping you, help guide you, right? And then on the graphic stuff after that. Yes, Lisa?
So on the wireframe that I sent over, like, how do I know if it's quite done? I mean, I could keep tweaking on it for weeks and days,
Yeah, no, and that's why I already connected you with Val. She can help you kind of figure out where to go from
Okay,
there.
how much more, where I go next. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, once you get that email connecting you with Nell, that means you have, she'll help guide you on what else you need to do. But at this stage, you can still continue tweaking on it with it until you meet with her, but she'll help guide you along.
One, I kind of changed to Proto IO because it got a little bit more user friendly. So my wireframe is going to look a little different.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Once we see it, we can give you feedback no matter what. I told you, I've had people do this in PowerPoint. So however you send it to us, we'll review it and give you some feedback. All righty. All right. Well, with that being said, everyone have a wonderful evening. Continue being amazing, and we will talk to you on Wednesday. I forgot, our speaker on Wednesday is Sean McCoy. He is going to help you guys kind of really think through your cost and revenue structure, right? Really. So I want you guys coming into Wednesday, really think about all the things that have to do for you to deliver your product or service, right? And I know some of you, it's really early stage and you're really not sure. Take some estimates, look at your competitors. What are some of the costs up front that you know is going to require for you to deliver your product or service? And how much time, for you, right? Because if you were to replace you with an employee, how many hours do you need to pay someone to do this work? All these things factor into your cost, because a lot of companies we see bring in money, but it's not actually revenue. And they don't realize that until it's too late. If it's costing you more to deliver than you're making, then you have a problem. And so those are the things Sean is going to work with you. Sean, just like Peter, is going to have time outside of class. So he's going to introduce you to the concepts and really get your brain thinking on it. But he's going to have time where you guys can schedule with him outside of class, where he can work with you one-on-one on really identifying those market opportunities for you to make money on your business. And so I want you guys, you notice there's a whole lot of meet with this person, meet with that person. There's a lot of that as you go, because we know we don't have the answers, but we want to surround you with good people that are going to help you build these pieces. But please make time. I know a lot of you are wrapping up with Sonia, and hopefully that was super helpful. But now we're bringing in a host of different people that are really just here to kind of help you with these pieces, right? And everyone might not have all your answers, but if you piecemeal all the things that you're learning from all these different networks, you're going to have very rich resources as you move on to the next level. So I want to make sure I make that disclaimer. And with all that being said, I will see you all Wednesday, our last cohort class together. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good night.
Wow.
Good night, Ines.